Welcome to today's episode of the CIO Watercooler TV. My name is David Savage and I'm joined by Freddie today from Join the Dots. And today's episode is a little bit different from the usual because Freddie, you're here to tell us about an initiative. I don't know whether initiative is exactly the right way to phrase it, but do you want to tell us first of all what Joining the Dots is all about and the background that's behind you?
Sure. So first of all, thank you for having me. It's also very unusual for me. This is not something that I do. It all started because, I was approached by an IT leader to say, hey, can you help me to donate some equipment to 3 schools in the Northeast, the most deprived part of the UK, and that's in Sunderland. And I said, of course. And can you donate end-of-life equipment or do something with social media? And I did all those things. But then what was really so destroying was that despite all the effort, not just from me, but from a lot of people, we didn't raise enough money. We didn't raise a lot. And I was asking the question, why and how come? So I started talking to one leader and that led to another leader. And then, I talked to the communities that I'm part of. I said, look, maybe if we mobilize the communities that we're part of, that might help. And it was interesting that the questions that came back was, but how do we help? So this is where I was asked to go and just find out more, and from 1 to 60 in 6 weeks, and that 60 is part of 9 communities that represents 90,000 members. And that's how it all started.
Just to jump in, it's 9 communities coming together to combat digital inclusion, to basically make sure that young people have access to technology. Correct me, just make sure we get it right so that people understand.
Yes, so it was all initially about helping disadvantaged school children, right, in 3 schools. But if you think about the issue, the more we found, the more we realized that it's not just about 3 schools. It's not just about 150 devices. It's a much bigger problem in the UK. And this is why part of this initiative is to share back the information that we've gathered so that people are more fully aware and they can help to do something about it.
So I think most people who are part of the CIO Watercooler community they will have talked about digital inclusion and about how there are parts of our society. You mentioned the Northeast. I'm from the Northeast. I grew up in Southeast Northumberland, which is, ex-coal mining community. I fully appreciate how disadvantaged parts of the country can be. They'll be on board with that, but they probably don't quite understand the scale of the problem, right?
Yep. I mean, I was one of those. I thought surely somebody would have solved this problem. It's been around for a long time. But then as I found out more, I realized that actually a lot of the things that's happening, we're not quite really seeing the real big picture. For example, right, I found that there's probably up to 1.8 million school children that is being impacted by this situation. And then when you hear in the news what the Department of Education is doing, rolling out 1.3 million laptops, that is a big number, but there's still a gap of 500,000, I mean. Right, and then if you look at other initiatives out there, such as the Daily Mail celebrity-led campaign that raised 10.6 million in 3 weeks, again, it sounds like big numbers. But if you do the sums, that's probably going to give you 30 to 50,000 equipment. Still very far away from where we need to get to. And this is the reason why I think people need to be more aware of what is going on. And by the way, there are so many initiatives out there already. We've counted from the 6 weeks, I've counted more than 70 of those. But the interesting thing is that how can they reach out to that gap unless we do something a bit more holistic about it, right?
So what exactly are you trying to do? You mentioned there a holistic approach. You've talked about the fact that you're approaching 9 communities, this being one of them. How can those communities specifically help to address this where others perhaps are failing?
Yeah, I think that the difference is that, we all start from the most obvious place, which is let's donate some equipment, right? But I think we now need to go beyond that because that may not be the most, although it may be the most obvious place to start with, but not the most obvious place to really give help, right? We need to be a bit more joined up. There needs to be a lot more thought that goes into solving this problem once and for all because this is a solvable problem. UK is the 5th largest world economy, right? We are all tech leaders. Surely this is something that we can do something about. And this is why we believe that if we all join up, our efforts, right? Understanding what is going out there, and then finding a way to address them in a more sort of systemic and holistic and far-reaching manner, that would help solving the problems. And for example, donating an equipment is one thing, but what about technical support for the child who needs to learn how to use the equipment or get support when there's an issue? Do we go far enough to think about that? I don't think so, right? And what about cyber safety, right? And what about cyber? So there's a lot of dimensions. So one of the things that we found from this information gathering was that we identified 6 action areas. So hopefully, again, part of this information gathering, socializing and mobilizing is to share the information with those communities out there. There are other ways of helping.
So your approach today is hoping that an IT manager, director, CTO, CIO of a member of this community is listening, and they get in touch to donate some machines. They get in touch to say, you know what, some of my teams might be interested to volunteer some time in schools. What do they do? You know, if they're kind of going, this is something that I want to help. Is it a case of getting in touch with you?
Yeah. So 2 things. One is that we want to make sure that we are trying to find out who is already doing something. So if you are doing something already, let us know, right? And then the second question is that if you are thinking of doing something and would like to help, then get in touch, because then hopefully what we're trying to do is to solve all the problems, because nobody can on their own, right? But together we can. If we can signpost for you to know where to start from, you know, where to get the information, so that you as an individual, as a community, or as an organization, because of CSR, to do something about it. So the 6 areas, right? 1 is equipment provisioning. That is obvious, right? 2 is technical support. That is an area that's really, really lacking. 3 is about getting digital skills, right? So, you know, not that they know how to use it. And 4 is about technical career opportunities. So this is including sort of work placements, career talks, apprenticeships, type of thing. 5th is around communication, which is why I'm here today, because we all have a responsibility to help to socialize this message, right? So that we can then mobilize ourselves to be more focused on the efforts. And then last but not least is an area that we know very well. This is about GRC, governance, risk, compliance, right? And this is where cyber safety, online safety, cyber essentials, these are the kinds of things that IT leaders is our area of expertise, and we can do something, and this is what we're trying to do now, to join those things up so that we can offer a more holistic way of solving this problem.
I feel we've been clear and articulate in explaining what the problem is, and obviously describing the numbers behind the situation that we find here, you know, a gap of 500,000. But emotionally, what was it that made you want to do more, to get involved, and how have you seen this project actually help people?
Look, I mean, first things first, I'm a parent, and I've seen my 2 children at home, and by the way, they're fairly privileged, and they have a father who knows a bit about IT, and I struggled, they struggle. And then when I got to realize that there are other children and families, the stark reality is that they have no equipment to go to school, to get an education, to be able to do the basic things that we take for granted. That is very, very disheartening. And this is why that donation thing that we all try to get involved was a good effort. But when that effort doesn't go anywhere, it pains you, right? And this is why, you know, again, putting my sort of business, you know, professional hat on, I say to myself and to other IT leaders, and they, by the way, that's why it became, you know, came together so quickly, because everybody can see the same thing, and we all suddenly realize that this is something that we should be more aware of, and we can also do something about.
Yeah. Look, Freddie, I really appreciate you giving up some time and telling us about Joining the Dots and the program that you're putting together. Again, what's your contact, or what's the contact for Joining the Dots?
Yeah, so 2 ways. One is, please get in touch by emailing me. So it's Freddie, Freddie, at timeshighereducation.com. That's my work email address. Or to go to LinkedIn, you can find me there. Or we also have a company page called linkedin.com/company/digital inclusion.
Brilliant. Look, thank you for sharing this with us today, and good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.